this whole thing is a ritual, y'all. And a lot of these fraternities and sororities, they pray to different gods. And some of them believe like the sun is God. Some of them believe like the god of the oceans and the seas and stuff like that. So like the day that they did this ritual, July 4th, Nolan Wells being found in the sea. Then you got like Officer Tatum, Nancy Grace, all these people, they could be all involved in the same little secret society. And that's why they doing this stuff, coming out, covering up for the dudes, the little young dudes, because they're in the same groups. They're all in the same group. So the little young dudes lying, Nancy Grace lying, they all know that they just, got initiated into this little Satanist group. So they sacrificed Nolan Wells, did initiation or whatever, and this is them getting rewarded. This is how they get rewarded, by going on Officer Tatum, going on different platforms. Yeah, going on different platforms. You better stay here. Like this, like the people who came out and said it was no foul play before the autopsy, everybody that's been lying is a part of the ritual, so they get rewarded for telling these lies, y'all. Happening. I don't know how people can't just see it clear as day, right in front of your face. They're not hiding it. Yeah, they're becoming more bolder and bolder. Hide it. Let me just get up out of this area, because it's like clockwork. As soon as you come to one place, you got these people that with this red truck. Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. As soon as I get to the park, here they come. And they probably come from right over there from the other park, and they're just watching everything on camera and want to sit all up under you. got this neighbor, this dude downstairs from where I stay. I guess it's this lady that lived downstairs, but I don't know if this her brother or her boyfriend or what. It's like a little light-skinned dude. I don't know if he's Spanish or what, but I don't know, she might be half and half or Spanish, but this dude just keep banging, making noise and stuff like that. So it just be like, man, I don't even feel comfortable staying there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he's like an FBI agent or something like that, but it seemed like he trained to do this shit. He be making a lot of noise down there, banging and shit. It's always in the room I'm in. I go in the bathroom as soon as I go take a shower. Now they're going to take a shower. So it'd be like they be recording me from downstairs in their house. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think be going on. My downstairs neighbors be recording me. So that's why every day when I go in the shower, as soon as I get in, they getting in the shower. Like clockwork. And then you got all the neighbors and it can be like, you know what I'm saying? This shit is sick, bro. This shit is sick. Definitely real organized, and you know what I'm saying. As soon as I go to the park right across from Domino's in Hyde Park. Next thing you know, here go the dude that they work for the park. They drive the red truck. One day, them dudes parked in front and was like looking, spying at me, so I won't get out the car and walk around. While this little white girl that be driving that little gray car with the tinted windows in there, she having sex with this dude that drive a black car. I think it got like UF on the back window or something like that. Yeah, broad daylight, they in there having sex, and he comes and park like facing towards my car, not even worrying about them. So you playing lookout for these people having sex in broad daylight. So it's prostitution going on at that park. Whenever you see that gray car with tents on the window, little white girl, Spanish girl, I don't know, she's having sex with all of the people that work at the park. And that's why they so like, when I get there, they act like they gotta be overprotective. Or I don't know if it's just like that dude is her boyfriend and she just messing with him. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I know one thing. Being targeted and profiled, it says, all right, if y'all gonna come after me, I'm gonna give y'all a reason. I'm covering up my fucking head, because one thing about white people and white nationalists and hate groups and stuff, they love to identify people by like how you look. Oh, his hair, you know what I'm saying? Get his hair, look at his hair. So fuck that. You won't have no identification of me, but it's a head wrap on my head, religious head wrap. You know what I'm saying? I got something stuck in my teeth like crazy. So this Carlo Anthony case is the reason why, like, you get a lot of black people that work for the police department, and they say, well, we can't really do nothing. I'm just doing my job, or whatever. Or like, they might know, like, we got cops, black cops might be on the police department, but it's a whole bunch of racist cops discriminating against black people, brutalizing them and stuff like that. The black cop will say, I'm just doing my job, so they won't stand up and fight against it, because they talking about, I don't want to get fired, I just want to get my check. It's the same thing with the Nolan Wells case, man. It's the same thing that's going on. Everybody Yeah, I'm okay. Duck, you keep saying, where you at? It don't matter where I'm at. So, can I get cigarettes? Can I get 3 and 3?
3 short, 3 long.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's the same thing over and over. Over else case. Same plate. What they give you. Bunch of people in these fraternities, and then they come back and they spy on the community and they like work for these fraternities. You know how like dudes that join gangs, like they got certain rules where the gangs come after people's family and the people in the gangs got to turn on their family and stuff like that. It's like a bad history that if you know about certain gangs like Crips, Bloods, Latin Kings, GDs and stuff, they got certain principles where these gangs got to show more loyalty to their gang than their own family and stuff like that. Or if like your family, he might have cooperated in the court case where he got robbed or his house got robbed, and now the OG and the big homie will tell him, well, you can't talk to your brother, you can't talk to your son because he was a witness in a crime. You know what I'm saying? Can't give you no examples, but you had videos on Facebook where this dude beat his son up for being in one of them little. His son was a young dude, and he was involved in that lifestyle. So he told his son to make an announcement online that he didn't want to be involved with the gang no more. And then the next day when he went back to school, they beat the son up and told him that he can't get out or something like that. These are the type of things that we witness and we see happen. I'm gonna see if I can get $1 drink from this store, since I didn't be able to find nothing to drink from my house. It's a store up the street. Then I gotta get gas. Actually, I think this gas station might have it, so I'm gonna just go get $6 of gas real quick and a drink. Been trying to win some money on these bets, man, so I can take care of my bills and stuff like that. If y'all want to support, I can hit the Cash App up or the PayPal. My Cash App is $Devon Bay, $DEVONBEY. My PayPal is caspatagreat@gmail.com. CASPATHEGREAT@gmail.com. If y'all want to support. So, I know at colleges, they do a lot of recruitment for these groups, these fraternities and stuff like that. So a lot of college students join in and stuff. So like that lady on the phone call with the CETO call, she could have been one of them fraternity sorority girls that she's trying to get her initiation, and this is a perfect opportunity. I think they knew that this was going to, like, They all knew that it was a part of a ritual, and they had to all lie and cover it up. They all knew that. Yeah. This is why, like, Nancy Grace all of a sudden coming out of retirement, getting involved, because she knows that this is a secret society ritual, and she's participating in the cover up. She talking about a polygraph and a lie detector test. How many black people got locked up with just one witness? They didn't check and see if they was lying or telling the truth. They had one witness and they believed them. So it don't make no sense. Man, people just blocking fucking traffic for no reason. If the lights is working, why the fuck y'all stopping people from going through? Y'all about to cause an accident. Dude's about to run right into me almost. I'll be right back. Matter of fact, I'll take y'all with me. Throw some of this stuff out. What's going on? Man, don't got none of these small drinks. I'm trying to find a spot in the shade. Looks like there's nothing but sun overhead. Yeah, ain't nothing but sun overhead. My phone be overheating quick. secret society ritual, y'all, with the brother Nolan Wells. If you really look deep into it, they did it by the water. Some people pray to the sun. They think the sun is God. They sacrifice him to that water, the god of the water. You know, they got the god of the medicine, Minerva and Jabalon and Apollos, and some of these gods they sacrifice people to. These gods want blood offerings. They give these people rules just like how the gangs, the street criminal gangs, the Ku Klux Klan or the Black no, the not the Black Panthers, the black gangs like the Bloods and the Crips and the GDs and all that. They got rules and gang, and in the same way how when they join these fraternities, you thinking it's just Boy Scout or it's just as a college campus fraternity organization. No, they got gangs that if they do a sacrifice, if you sacrifice one of your best friends, or you gonna go to the NFL, they're gonna give you a TMZ interview with Officer Tatum and all that stuff. Officer Tatum should be going through so much persecution. You are not a real officer of the law. You don't even respect the law. You a coward, and God gonna put blood in your mouth. Now sue that bitch. I want to see y'all try to sue me. Make me go viral. Make me famous. Donald Trump lawyer. Bart, I think Bart killed Nolan. Now sue me. I think Bart did it. Because when they was on the boat, they said, damn it, Bart. And that's when they said Bart had an argument or something like that. I think Bart killed him. If Bart didn't kill him, Bart probably got in a fight with him. And Nolan was beat so bad, they let him die out. And they threw him on the side of the road. They all participated in killing Nolan Wells and trying to hide the evidence and hide his body after they knew he was dying or dead or whatever. They left him to die. They killed him and they threw up his body, whatever. They knew what happened. They lying. That's why they going on doing all these interviews instead of saying, well, we'll let Ben Crump cross-examine us. You know what I'm saying? If they ain't have nothing to hide, they would say, well, we'll go meet with Ben Crump. He can cross-examine us, ask us any questions he want. And we don't need no lawyer. Why they lawyer up? Why you get Donald Trump lawyer? Why ain't get just a public defender? Why you ain't get a public defender you ain't got to pay for? Why they get a Donald Trump lawyer? Why ain't get one of the lawyers that sell you out and you go most of the time the public defenders sometimes they sell out, but sometimes they do fight for people if they feel like you. I don't know why, but they fight. Yeah, God worked through public defenders for me, so all praise to the Most High. They stood on the truth. You know what I'm saying? But that was a black man. I think it was a black man. Like he was like, nah, he wasn't. Yeah, I think it was it was a white man. It was my public defender. It was probably the prosecutor who was a black man, but the district attorney didn't believe the other person. He knew he was a liar, so they gave me a good plea bargain that one time. And in other times, public defenders worked in my favor, but sometimes they sell people out. I got sold out one time by one of them. My alcohol came back 0.0. I told the cop, this was like 2010. I told the cop that I smoked weed 6 hours ago, and he gave me a DUAI, told me to do a breathalyzer, made me walk the line and do all that stuff, and said I couldn't stand up straight, lying through his fucking teeth. Went to the hospital. He took my blood. This how I know they do like real rituals and sacrifice. Why the fuck you gotta take somebody to the hospital and take their blood? If I failed the breathalyzer and the blood test, that's all you need, right? So that was it was suspicious. You know what I'm saying? He did some crimes. Do they do that every time? No, they don't do that. If you get a DUAI or a DWI, they tell you to bring the breathalyzer. They can't take everybody to a hospital. What if you miles far away? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so he was doing a lot, that dude, in 2010. So like when they do corruption, Once you're done like this and you've been through certain things like this, you could discern because you know how things work naturally and you know how it works when it's done corruptly. They're not using no resources to get the truth. Every resource that could be used, they lying, man. This is some satanic ritual sacrifice stuff, and everybody smiling in y'all face. Nancy Grace, Nolan Wells, I mean, Officer Tatum, they don't care about Nolan Wells. Even the young dudes that's doing the interviews, they doing all that to raise money. That's why they going on TMZ and Officer Tatum because they doing fundraising, y'all. They doing crowdfunding. They trying to raise money. They doing the same thing as George Zimmerman did. Nobody should feel sorry for these young boys who was involved with Nolan Wells' death because George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin and he got paid $250,000 for the murder weapon. He sold the murder trophy. He bragged about murdering um Trayvon Martin, and now he's homeless, sleeping under a bridge, and having mental health problems. That's the same thing that should happen to these boys that did this to Nolan Wells, because he got away with murdering Trayvon Martin. He didn't do no time, and these people are getting away, and they doing all these interviews. Y'all gonna get the same treatment as George Zimmerman. If black people don't listen, man, y'all talking about getting death threats and all that. You got away with a murder. You're not going to say let's go to Ben Crump with no attorney and let him ask us any questions to prove your innocence. You lawyering up and stuff. You making it look like you're guilty. Nobody got you on camera murdering nobody like they got George Zimmerman. So why you lawyering up? If y'all innocent, you're the truth. Why y'all delete your phone records? Why y'all delete your social medias? This was before people even started accusing y'all. It's not adding up, y'all. It's not adding up. And when you ever got whenever you got this much lies stacked on top of each other, it's either God is going to bring so much destruction and judge people, or the people going to destroy each other. In one way or another, it's destruction is heading towards these type of environments. The land will vomit you out because all of the blood, the innocent blood, cries out. Nolan Wells' blood is crying out to heaven, and y'all just keep lying. God know who did it, just like He knew who did it with Cain and Abel. He said, "Your brother's blood crying out to me from crying out up to heaven." Y'all shed innocent blood. Nolan Wells wasn't a fighter. Y'all shed innocent blood. You white nationalist devils, you Neanderthals. So they gotta get a lot of black women like your Kamala Harris's. They gotta get black men like your Barack Obamas. All your sellout people in the military and the police forces, right? To work for the white nationalist movement, to work against the betterment of black people, to create and commit genocide against their own people. They have to hire as many of them as possible. Your Officer Tatum's and your them dudes like Snow Gang TV and all that, talking about smash the lights button, gang. Nigga sound like somebody holding his nose in when he talking. Snow Gang or whatever his name is. Say no to squat. Just say no to snow. You trying to act like you being biased, nigga. You know what happened. Your spirit and your conscience bear witness, nigga. Stop acting, making it seem like you don't know what happened. So you don't want to lose no fans. That's what it is. This case right here, a lot of people is grifting. They what they call it, right? You're using this topic to get more views, more subscribers, and more donations. That's all it is. Some people will give you a professional breakdown. That don't mean they care. That just mean they know how to talk professional. and can seem like they concerned. Listen, y'all, I believe the most powerful thing that black people can do and Asian people, because this Nolan Wells is not just a black people problem. This got something to do with all the Asian people too, who's um, marginalized and mistreated, and you know, deal with injustice. Because Nolan Wells' mom was an Asian woman, so it's not just a black person thing. A lot of Asians are speaking out and waking up behind this Nolan Wells thing. The system that y'all built is falling, man. It's not gonna last forever. It wasn't built by God. It was created by man. The United States government, the United States military, every office building. God didn't ordain no president. God didn't ordain no of no other country or no other nation. God ordained family. God ordained marriage. God ordained mothers. God ordained fathers with authority. He never ordained no government, any type. So you got 1934 congressional record, right? With Louis McFadden when he exposed the fraud. If y'all want to fight, stop riding around the neighborhood, stalking ass police, racist ass Ku Klux Klan police officers that's telling you to stalk certain people. Like you intimidating or you gonna stop the truth. If you're gonna fight, go fight to get back the gold and silver for the people that the real criminals stole in 1933. If you're gonna fight something, fight against that, you pussy ass coward motherfucker. If you want to fight something, you fake ass neighborhood watch motherfuckers, go fight against the criminals and the terrorists and the pedophiles who work for Donald Trump, who work for all your politicians and all your civil rights leaders that sold us out. Go fight the real war. You see, Trump don't want to fight to make America great again. That's why he over in Iran killing babies in daycares. Trump went over to Iran and said, let's go take out a bunch of daycares and say we kill the regimes. You ain't killing no leaders and no regimes over there. Y'all, you're taking babies hostage and holding them and getting 14-year-olds pregnant and stuff. We seen the videos, man. And they moving them to Texas. All these immigrants, they're popping up with 14-year-old immigrants, Mexican babies that's getting pregnant now. And they shipping them to Texas and putting them in a holding cell. Y'all didn't hear about that though, right? So you think God instituted these people? The Donald Trump and all them, and Kamala Harris, one of them say, they all work for the same government. Kamala Harris and them was cool with the borders being open. When Trump got in, he didn't want the borders to be open. All these people work in the same government. They get paid the same way, right? But they all got different opinions. You think God ordained these people? You think that when Romans tell you submit to the powers that be, there's no power that ordained but by God. The powers that be ordained by God. You think that that's talking about government, don't you? No, it's not. It's talking about the powers that God authorized, which is family, mother, father, and that's it. So God was always the king of, and then that was Saul. Saul did evil. God didn't institute the king. The people asked for a king. They went against God's desire, his purpose for them and his intention. And this is where they fell. So the same thing is going on with Nolan Wells' case, man. All of your politicians, every lawyer, I don't care if they black, I don't care if they say they're not like Ben Crump, I don't care. You all got bar association cards. You know what that means? Y'all all gotta go by the same rules. You can't even fight for reparations really like that. If they feel like you a lawyer and you doing things that's discriminatory and you're only trying to focus on black people, they might take your bar association card. So a lot of lawyers and attorneys be scared to fight for reparations.
because they don't want to lose their bar association card, as well as everybody that's involved with politics. They don't want to get looked at as racist, but they'll go up in there and pass an Asian crime hate bill. They'll pass the Asian hate bill. They'll give reparations to Ukraine and Russia. They'll be involved with all the illegal immigrants coming across our border and them getting housing and all type of stuff. They don't care about that, right? They lied to us. Anthony Fauci and all of them lied during the pandemic about the vaccines and killed a lot of our grandmothers in the hospital, killed a lot of our family members and stuff like that because they lied about the vaccines and said it's going to help us, but people started dying. Remember? They said, oh, we're going to help you. I did it. And all this, they try to promote that stuff. Since when did y'all care about people's health? When y'all give us chicken nuggets that ain't even real chicken. If you had somewhere to test all this chicken they got in the grocery store, you'll find out. How are y'all selling us chicken with red meat in us? How y'all selling us chicken with red meat in it? You can't buy no pure chicken from the grocery store. The chicken wings, the chicken legs, every piece of chicken you buy is going to say made with rib meat. The chicken tenders from Tyson, why is chicken made with rib meat? Chicken and ribs are two different animals. But y'all ain't figured it out yet. You think it tastes good. They figured out how to season up death and sell you death through them boxes, them Tyson and all them chickens. That's not really chickens. Y'all telling us it's not because it says made with rib meat. But you think they care? If they care, why wouldn't they give us real chicken? Even at the fast food restaurants, you see they didn't shut none of the fast food restaurants down because they selling fake chicken, right? The CDC and the World Health Organization, they don't care about our health because they would have regulated Wendy's, McDonald's, and all of them from selling fake chicken sandwiches, right? Talking about a crispy chicken, and there ain't no chicken in there. It might be chicken mixed with other meats, but it ain't just pure chicken. Yeah, y'all, so we got to get into a little bit more reading. But we started off. Giving power back to the people. Knowledge is power. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of knowledge. But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Once you arm yourself with this knowledge, you will know how governments don't represent you. They don't help you. They don't help make your family better. They come to take, steal, and put people in servitude. All kings and all civil governments, they were all created by humans. So let's get into this. I hope this is a seed planted and somebody watch the end of this video and get the message through this. Because this ain't just about covering a topic that's trending to get views and get subscribers. I'm not on YouTube. I'm not on these platforms to monetize. I already did that in the past. So when you speak the truth, they don't pay you enough. The most support you'll get is from the people. So every platform you see on social media, they're gonna water down their message so they won't get like shadow ban, or you know what I'm saying, it could possibly lose their platform and stuff like that. If you start talking about how the Holocaust is fake and you don't believe in the Holocaust and stuff like that, they'll start playing with you, and then they just slowly take your channel eventually. Yeah. But everybody could talk about black people. You notice how people can talk freely about black people, but you talk about the Ashkenazis, crypto Khazarians, them that say they are Jews but are not and do lie but are the synagogue of Satan. Now it's hate speech. You never get nobody that get charged with hate speech on these platforms for talking disrespectful against black people, talking disrespectful against the civil rights movement, talking disrespectful against Martin Luther King. They can put up memes of Martin Luther King and everything, right? But they don't get taken down for hate speech. You had this dude named Chud the Builder. He was going around antagonizing black people, calling them niggers and all that stuff. He didn't get charged with hate speech until I think somebody might have beat him up or something, and then he got arrested. And now the FBI saying, well, he might have been doing hate crimes. Man, y'all knew what he was doing the whole time. Y'all was probably sending him out and paying him. Yeah, y'all probably sent them out and paid them. Remember, the government don't give you, they don't make your family better. All they do is take, and take. Steal, take things that's not theirs, covet, murder, lie, like what we see with the Nolan Wells case. That's all they do. Thank God for the truth. Thank God for his word. And the Holy Spirit that will teach you all things. All right, check this out, y'all. So when civil government is the wrongdoer, the legitimate purpose of civil government, when established by consent or wrongfully established otherwise, is to secure the rights of individuals arising from their duties to God and of the family arising out of its duties owed to God. This involves the protection of persons and property. The individual and family member are free to exercise their rights without interference, regulation, or control by others, and not by the civil government, its officials, police, prosecutors, judges, zoning, administrators, triune officers, or the dog catcher. Unfortunately, we have Romans 13 all turned around. We have been wrongly taught that God has authorized Caesar to play mini God. We have been taught these verses justify every civil ruler's authority to punish anyone and everyone in connection with an undefined hold on. So unfortunately, we turned Romans 13 all around. We have been wrongly taught that God authorized Caesar to play a mini God. We have been taught these verses justify every civil ruler's authority to punish anyone and everyone in connection with an undefined and unlimited number of civil and criminal offenses. Perhaps we have been taught that one exception exists, preaching the message of Yeshua the Christ, but of course, that wrongly assumes Caesar is otherwise unlimited by the will of God. We have been taught that the president down to the dog catcher is God's divine representative. We have been taught this idolatry in our churches. See, y'all church teach idolatry, telling you that the government is ordained by God and the president is ordained by God and all that. That's idolatry. You idolize a man, and God didn't create no government. These are human institutions that was created by a human, not by God. Let's continue. But accepting that whatever the state says is a crime and can be punished is the wrong way to think about it. The problem is that the civil government, state governments, and the federal government have criminalized and will punish, control, regulate, and interfere with a man or woman when they try to exercise their own authority they enjoy as members of the human race, and not as gifts from any civil government. These civil governments also pass laws that interfere and punish the exercise of that authority which God has given to husbands and wives and fathers and mothers in marriage and family. This is a complete perversion. It is a construction that emasculates the clear and obvious authority of humans and families. Even when you send your children to school, you saying, I'm okay with letting pedophiles teach my children. I'm okay with letting the government mandated curriculum that I don't even agree with, Christopher Columbus discovered America, or whatever they teaching your children, reading them homosexual books. You agree with that they got authority, that God gave them authority over you to raise your children and educate your children. Even the private schools got a government mandated curriculum. The religious schools, all of them. They all got to teach math and science and all type of stuff. And you don't need, the Bible says stay away from science, but you got to teach them science when they go to school, elementary all the way up to high school and to college. They be going to teach certain type of science, right? But your God told you to stay away from science. And you got churches called the Church of Scientology, and you think that they serve the same God as us? Yeah, all right. The God of this world is their God, the God of their belly. But I'm not saying that God can't use them, the Church of Scientology. He might use them to go fight court cases for against abortion or whatever they believe in, but that don't mean that they following Christ. They got a lot of things to repent. They ain't following the truth. They err a lot. How you gonna call yourself the Church of Scientology? And Paul specifically said, stay away from science, falsely so-called. The wrongdoer is the one who interferes with you and me when we undertake those responsibilities we all enjoy as members of the human race and as families, summarily stated in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and every creature that moves on the ground. The civil ruler's authority to punish wrongdoers exists only where the people consent to extend that authority. If that limited power is simply assumed by a despot or oligarch, the resulting use of that limited power may be the same, though the basis upon which such a despot comes to power is lawless. If a civil official enjoys authority to punish those who interfere with our responsibilities, either by our consent or without our consent, by usurpation, the end result in protecting our freedom is the same. But the lawful approach is that no civil official ever act by his or her own claim to rule. Caesar's power, where given by the people, is limited to punish those who interfere either by regulation, subsidy, taxation, or legal prohibition with the individual authority of each man and woman to govern their own person and property. It is limited to punish those who interfere with our authority to enter into and enforce contracts, and join or associate with others, including the pursuit of voluntary societies and commercial and business relations by consent, to name a few. It is limited to the punishment of those who interfere with husbands and wives and fathers and mothers with the exercise of their authority about their land, labor, children, conceived or born, including their education and upbringing and their estates. See, a lot of y'all that follow the Islam Moorish teachings and Noble Drew Ali and Farrakhan and Nation of Islam, y'all think y'all can have multiple wives. God never made a law for a man to have more than one wife. You got to read in Genesis. He says, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, not wives, one, meaning singular, wife. And they shall be no more twain, but one flesh. Because if it was more than one wife, he would have never even said, they shall be no more twain, but one flesh. He would have said, they shall be no more three, but two different fleshes, two wives and one man, or something like that. So, unfortunately, the reality is that Caesar is not consistent. He is not consistently the protector of these responsibilities. Caesar has instead become more often than not a wicked transgressor of these responsibilities through decrees, statutes, and orders, ordinances, codes, property regulations, compulsory education laws, and zoning laws, to name a few. Civil government neither made a man, husband, or father. Civil government never made a man, husband, or father, wife, or mother by a legislative declaration. These authorities all preceded civil government in time and history and are superior to civil government in exercising their respective authority. Without this understanding, personal freedom is impossible. Caesar will play God by default. We cannot remain ignorant of those duties we owe to our Creator in the manner of discharge and still be free. We cannot yield the existence of those duties to any force except our own reason and persuasion. The civil government and church may not use law or exercise force, coercion, or violence against those duties. The Virginia Bill of Rights observes this concept that religion, or the duty which we owe to our Creator in the manner of discharging it, can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. Because God is the King of the nations, he authorizes no civil government or official to interfere with any duty he requires. Now, let's talk about American government according to the Bible, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Chapter 16. Does the Declaration of Independence respect God's authority over nations? O Lord God of our fathers, are you not God in heaven? You rule over all the kingdoms of the nations. In your hand are power and might, so that none is able to withstand you. 2 Chronicles chapter 20 and verse 6. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Declaration of Independence, 1776. We want separation. We want a whole country for ourselves, for black people in America. Y'all can have the United States, white supremacists, racist Neanderthals, and everybody give us back the gold and silver, and we'll create a whole new country. Y'all can have these Federal Reserve notes. We want to split. We want the money that George Washington and all them was spending. We want that old Abraham Lincoln real money that you can go get, and it's legal tender. You can go give it to any bank. They give you gold and silver for it. You go look at a dollar from 1913 and see what it read on it, and then look at your Federal Reserve note and see what's the difference. This is a debt instrument that they're giving us, not money. Article 1, Section 10, no state shall make anything but gold and silver, legal tender and payment of debts. They don't do that. And they don't teach you to learn about this stuff. They say stay away from that stuff. It's all outdated and Oh, nobody cares. Man, they talk about Roe versus Wade, all type of old stuff from the 1800s in the Supreme Court. Every year they do this. So don't tell nobody something's outdated. Let us transition from our, let's go to laws of nature and articulation of the laws of God written in creation and revelation. Let us transition from our examination of the scripture to the American experience with civil government. The foregoing chapters are universal for all nations, so the principles can be applied to any constitution or civil government or form of government. But our immediate focus is on tracing our understanding of God's view of civil government when instituted by the consent of the people in the American experience. Did the ideas identified in the first 400 years of human history about the creation, equality, the family, and marriage find their way into American law? How about the predisposition of mankind to violence, murder, polygamy, practiced in the pre-flood world? Or did the limitations on human punishment of murder, the lawless rule of pharaohs, judges, and kings influence the founders or framers in limiting the national government? Did the principles of freedom enjoyed by human beings under the law of nature, or the doctrines of practical submission to or resistance of tyrants, or the grace of God throughout it all, find their way into the Declaration of Independence? How about the constitutions of the states and of the subsequent national government? Let us first examine what the Declaration of Independence actually says. After that, we can determine if any of its propositions or ideas have biblical roots. The first and foremost place to understand the Declaration is with an examination of what it claims to be its foundation. Does it say that we the people have power to make a government? Does it say that government is divine and comes from God? Does it say that since government is a man-made institution, we can make any government we want, with or without limits? No, it says none of these things. The Declaration of Independence creates no civil government at all. Instead, it declares the principles by which every civil government can be judged according to law. It declares the reasons which justify a people in separating from a civil government. It declares the principles upon which every new civil government is to be bound. It says that Americans are justified in separating from their government under an English king. The framers tell us they are claiming that a specific law articulates all these principles. They call it the laws of nature and of nature's God. They wrote, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. The laws of nature. So what are the laws of nature? The laws of nature are those laid down by God at the creation of the world. They are the laws he embedded in his creation. His creation consists of the natural and physical world. It consists of the environment. It consists of human beings. It consists of the plant and animal world. It consists of the oceans and the heavens. It consists of all that he has made. He also established rules concerning their purpose and use. He established his expectations concerning each and all of these matters and the rules or standards by which they should be governed. We have examined key aspects of the law of nature in prior chapters. We have seen that God has never relinquished his authority to govern humans by his laws he laid down contemporaneously with the creation of the heavens and earth. The law of nature declared God's decree and punishment for a variety of offenses that no human court has authority or jurisdiction to judge or punish. Unnatural sexual relations, greed, depravity, envy, strife, deceit, malice, gossip, slander, God hating, people who hate God, insolence, arrogance, and boastfulness, disobedience to parents, a lack of understanding, fidelity, love, or mercy. Romans chapter 1, verse 26 to 32. Murder was also stated as a matter which God retained the authority to judge, but he later authorized human beings to punish murderers. See Genesis chapter 9, verse 6. Likewise, the law of nature affirms that what a person chooses to eat or drink is between that person and the Creator. The same applies to the choice. See, a lot of Indians, a lot of them, they drink pee, they drink urine, they drink horse pee. A lot of Indians, they rub horse piss on their face, Hindus and Indians, because they say it make their skin clear and all that. You can't make no law and say it's a crime for you to drink horse piss if you a Hindu Indian, if that's their religion and culture. I wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Some people eat frog legs. I wouldn't eat no frog legs. Some people eat crab legs. You can't say, well, because we believe in the God of the Bible, everybody that eats shrimp and crab legs, you going to jail. See, that's how you know the government ain't enforcing no God laws. If they was, nobody would be able to eat crab legs. They'll be banned in America. And if you get caught with them, you'll do life in prison just for getting caught with a shrimp or a crab leg. They unclean. And God's law never changed. Only the animal sacrifices that Christ said it is finished when he was on the cross. He never said the law changed. So he said if you love your neighbor and you love God, that's like keeping all the commandments. He ain't say that you keeping all the commandments though. He said if you can do these two, you're probably be in harmony with all the rest. Because your heart. But if you can't do these two, you probably breaking all the rest. That's what that's saying. It's saying a lot of other things, but let's continue. So the law of nature affirms that what a person chooses to eat or drink is between that person and the Creator. The same applies to the choice to accept or refuse medical care or treatment, including vaccinations. These things God has never surrendered to any person, except not to the CDC, except the one exercising the choice, and no civil government. That decision or choice is not given to any other person, employer, or civil government. Not the World Health Organization, not Fauci, not none of y'all. The decision as to what a person shall eat or drink, or the choice to accept or reject drugs and medical care, including masking and vaccinations, lies solely between the individual's own conscience and God. It is to God alone that the individual must account, not the civil government, employer, or any brother, sister, or church. Parents are empowered to decide these matters for their children during their season of infancy and youth. The authority to judge how or when a person celebrates or declines to celebrate certain days, or how or when they celebrate or observe the Sabbath, is reserved exclusively to God. Any human being or government which claims such an authority is usurping God's authority, and that usurpation is lawless and need not be obeyed. The same rule governs a person's decision to use or decline drugs or medical treatment. This authority is by the law of nature retained exclusively by God, and is not within any human authority to decree, impair, or punish. Colossians chapter 2 and verse 16. God declared that the seventh day was a holy day because on that day he rested. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 2. As a consequence, God expects mankind will also rest on the seventh day and observe it as a holy day. This principle of one day of rest and seven is part of the law of nature. It was established at the creation of the world by the Creator, and it is the Creator which has the exclusive jurisdiction to enforce it according to his will, as he and he alone shall see fit. Civil government lacks the jurisdiction under the laws of nature to dictate what commercial activity anyone may or may not do on any specific day. So-called blue laws are contrary to the law of nature. Moreover, only God has authority over the human heart and human mind, as referred to in Romans 1. This too is part of the law of nature. God alone has authority to search and probe the heart and mind. Jeremiah 17:10, Jeremiah 20:12, Romans 8:27. It is the peace of God, not government control of education or public schools, which guards the heart and mind. Philippians 4:7. These are the laws of nature of which God has never relinquished enforcement to any human government to judge. He has not given them to any other nation or government, and God continues to exclusively judge all these to this very hour. Compulsory attendance and education laws are an example of how this law of nature is offended. Compulsory diversity and inclusion training likewise offends the law of nature. God has also laid down the law of nature regarding marriage. Get them highlighters ready, y'all. Get them highlighters ready. God has also laid down the law of nature regarding marriage, that it should exist only between one man and one woman during the lifetime of both. What is Captain Tazariak and ISUBK talking about? That's why they keep ducking me. That's why Captain Tazariak, he won't respond to none of my videos, because he a coward and he can't keep, he's teaching people how to break God's laws. And God is going to punish him. He ain't going to repent, then God is going to punish him, man. All the whole ISUB camp under the commanding general leadership of Johanna, whoever y'all say y'all leader is. Big fat ass overweight gluttonous. Y'all not moving like Moses and none of them, and y'all are going to hell if y'all don't repent. My phone about to overheat. I'll be right back. Yeah. We back. We back. So before we get back in, let me play a song real quick because I'm smoking a cigarette just to get a little break in. Hopefully it don't cut off because I'm in the shade now, so it should be good, hopefully. But we're gonna get the rest of this. I got a nice amount of charge on this laptop, decent amount of charge on the phone, so we can get at least like almost an hour in or something. So I need y'all to share this and hit the like, get the message out, because I don't have I don't have a lot of people watching, so y'all gotta help me out. Help me get the message out. I was doing a little bit on Facebook, but it's on Facebook they only keep the video up for 30 days, so it don't make sense to do it over there. This is the type of stuff we need to just gotta keep so you can go back and research it. You go back and research it. Euphrates River dry, the kings of the east ready for warlick at the time. The horse sit on the water now, it's time for her to climb. Who wise, got life, got all, who gon' shine? I know it's getting hard, but every demon we gon' find. Fight the good fight, y'all, we at the finish line. They serving all them gods, I bet they tremble, mention mine. I done had a vision, he protect us in the line. He blowing out his wings, fourth quarter winning time. Gift for the Ruach, I got baptized. Shake off that dirt from that grave, we arise. Only by his blood, grateful for his love. We just want his spirit, we'll crawl for it. Never let his hand go, he tell me where I can't go. I got to see the land, oh, put it in words, but I can't. The weather changed, the elder on the phone like these the saints. Psalm 91, bombs drop, same faith. We made it back home, Mount Olive, sing grace. Judah, it's your time to ride, the tribes coming after mine. Leadership is not required, good report, I should have brought some grace back. Connected to the vine, I'm in his hand where I'm safe at. Moses ain't walking, but I walk.
Never let his hand go. Never let his hand go. Never let his hand go. If you got mercy and forgiveness, you got all that. I can't believe he let me leave. I touched the soil, yeah. I seen Jerusalem and Ashkelon, it's gorgeous. Never let his hand go. Never let his hand up in his presence, we wanna be back in the city of palm trees. Angels and the great king, we hooked his pretty blade team. The wedding is coming, we waiting. Back in the water, saying, who willing to take me? No, the two, not three. Up in his presence, we wanna be back in the city of palm trees. Pretend it's a run, it can't harm me. I'm looking up, got an army. Back and forth, they bomb me. Back and forth, they bomb me. No, I ain't worthy. I seen the Holy Land. He sent me early, having the journey. I know you can't, you ain't even worried. You got power, you ain't even worried. Sending praise, you know that you heard me. By that blood, now I'm clean, I was dirty. Keep that long way to turn. They turn me close to joy and burning. Can't what we earning. Wickedness burning. Shit is confirming. The shit is confirmed. Hear your lane, stay your mighty hand. We gon' trust your plan. Ready to escape, we gon' stay. See the sun, man. We don't wanna hit the bar from me. I never knew you. We gon' seek him while he can't be found. We still pursue you. We know he the one, not the two, not the three. Up in his presence, we wanna be back in the city of palm trees. Hosanna, the great king. We hooked to the spirit, he played. The wedding is coming, we waiting. Back in the water, safety. We willing to leave, take me. We know we the one, not the two, not the three. Up in his presence, we wanna be back in the city of palm trees. Pretend it's a run, it can't harm me. I'm looking up at an army. Back and forth, they bomb me. Back and forth, they bomb me. Gas in the wilderness, purge out the rebels. So tired of hurting our all these cases, we got several. A nation that was chosen, we could never get it right. We be evil when times get out his land, get out his sight. But he gon' send his hand with all his anger and his might. The apple of his eye, the remnant walking in that light. A covenant he made, ain't no way he gon' forget. Got our eye to the east, that's where we was before them ships. He gon' plead with us face to face. Bring us out them places we just scared and we gon' taste his grace. We gon' deserve it by his son, the holy priest and priest. Second Maccabee, chapter 2, verses 8. The cloud coming back again, the whole earth gon' shake. As for that praise, it be unknown until he had us. The same mountain Moses climbed, see what he has for us. Yeah, up on Nebo, the Mashiach our hero. Deliverance in his blood, to zero. We can't both save by grace, ain't no works involved. Put this blood in your life, I'm tired of hurting y'all. That promised land, milk and honey, gotta turn for y'all. We bringing the kingdom home, just let it work in y'all. Let it work inside you. I will be sanctified inside you right before your arrival. Sprinkle clean waters on the skins in front of these eyes. The idols confound you. You got a trumpet and you need to sound it. Follow the shepherd cause he keep me grounded. Get in this ark with the no drowning. Let's get into this reading before my phone start giving me problems and stuff. Because if it keep overheating, I'm just gonna have to end this live, yo. So God has also laid down the law of nature regarding marriage, that it should exist only between one man and one woman during the lifetime of both. So Captain Tazariak, ISUBK, y'all go around calling yourselves Real Nigga University and all this stuff. Man, y'all are a gimmick. Y'all like WWF action figures. Fake ass playing around like y'all Hebrew Israelites wearing all these costumes, and Moses and them ain't even wearing none of that stuff that y'all wearing, man. Show me in the law where it say to put all this stuff on your wrists and all these wristbands and headbands y'all got on. Them brothers wasn't wearing that stuff, man. You got to show me the exact scripture. I know it say wear fringes, Numbers 15:38. It don't say wear all fringes on your jeans. They wasn't wearing jeans. So you got two wives. You telling people you got all these different wives and stuff. He did an interview with young Pharaoh before young Pharaoh had the fingernails with the cheetah prints on. I don't know what's going on with young Pharaoh, but I pray for him. I'm not trying to make a joke out of him. I pray that whatever is attacking him or whoever, he probably got paid to do that. When them rappers start painting their fingernails, they get paid to do that from their stylists and stuff like that. They probably do a deal with Dolce & Gabbana and they say, yeah, wear this outfit and paint your fingernails black. We'll give you $2 million or something. And they start doing weird stuff. Or they got to do this stuff to get in the industry. I don't know what they do. But what's his name? Young Pharaoh, man. I pray for him. Them was like, I know young Pharaoh went gone. He tatted his whole face up with the eye of Horus and all that stuff, but I can't see him just freely, wearing fingernails with cheetah prints after he done went so hard at Hassan Campbell and all this stuff. I think young Pharaoh got paid money to do that. And he was going through hard times. He lost his family and he couldn't buy an apartment and all stuff. He talked a lot about stuff he was going through online. I think somebody paid Pharaoh to do that. And It's damaging to them because, man, they gonna do the people gonna eat you up on this. They said, nigga, you let down the whole black community. You like Brother Polite, Dr. York, all the other black leaders that people looked up to. They all do some funny stuff. Nature Boy, all of them, right? At least I'm called like that. They just took my platform because I kept speaking it too much against the Holocaust, the fake Jews, all that type of stuff. So they got mad at me and taking my stuff. Let's keep going. So let's get it back from where we left. So God has also laid down the law of nature regarding marriage, that it should exist only between one man and one woman during the lifetime of both. During the lifetime of both. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. He established the law of nature regarding the authority of the family, of husbands and wives, and of mothers and fathers. This includes their duties to each other regarding their children, principally including the exclusive jurisdiction of the family to direct the education and upbringing of their own children, leaving their neighbor children to their own parents. The Supreme Court's vain effort to redefine marriage rejects the law of nature. Y'all hit that like button, man. Share this video out. They're gonna shadow ban this type of content. Y'all gotta share it out. Hype me up too. It's claimed that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right, is a rabid departure from the Constitution's 14th Amendment, and antithetical to the Constitution's legal founding. The Declaration of Independence explicit grounding in the law of nature. Matthew chapter 7 verse 5 to 20 states, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, you will recognize them by their fruits. In other words, the judicial wolves have borne their redefinition of marriage from an unhealthy tree, being their own evolutionary understanding of law. God says the thing to do is cut that tree down. Finally, for our purposes here, that's God also expressed the law of nature regarding the authority of a man and woman. God said to Adam and Eve that they should have children. This is why they promote all them women that be rapping and promoting lesbianism and stuff. I ain't gonna say no names, but it was a lot of y'all, but we could keep going. God said to Adam and Eve that they should have children. God said that they should have many children. God said that they should fill the earth. Yahuwah, who said that their children should fill the earth and subdue the earth, in order that Adam and Eve and their children could subdue the earth. He gave them seed-bearing plants. He gave them fruit trees for food. He gave them the animals of the earth, though not to eat at first. He gave them every bird in the air and all the creatures of the earth. He gave them every green plant for food. Though after the flood, he gave them animals for food, though this grant of authority was not part of the original law of nature. Whether man and woman obey this law of nature is for God to judge, not any other person or civil government. When we examine the several principles articulated in the Declaration of Independence and the next chapter found in the law of nature, we will provide an explanation, the biblical support for those principles. The point of classifying rules or conduct as part of the law of nature is to declare their universal application to all peoples and all nations over the globe at all times.
under all circumstances and all ages. But more important, it is to declare God's exclusive jurisdiction to punish or discipline people for violating these rules or laws of creation. The reason we take care in identifying the laws of nature is so we can see what power ought not be entrusted to civil government. If a civil government is to be established, it must observe the laws of nature. If it fails to observe the laws of nature, it is not a lawful civil government. It is a civil government usurping that which God has not actually given to any human institution. It is a civil government purporting to set aside the laws of nature, indeed of creation itself. Any civil government to be established must observe the limitations imposed by the laws of nature if it is to be considered a lawful government. A lawful civil government may not exercise jurisdiction over any of these objects, nor may it regulate how these objects are effectuated. The law of nature issues a universal decree commanding civil government: do not enter. Thus, any civil government established on the basis of and in recognition of the laws of nature ought to not embrace any purpose or jurisdiction retained solely by God, nor can the people give such an object or purpose to their civil government by consent, because the people themselves do not have the authority to declare God's laws of nature void or inapplicable. The law of nature is by definition universal and applies without regard to the approval or consent of any human being. So, we are free to examine the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, or the National Constitution which followed, or the acts of Congress, or decisions of the Supreme Court, or orders of the President. We are free to hold each of these documents, decisions, and orders them up to the harsh and searching light of the law of nature. We are free to examine each act undertaken by the government and evaluate whether or not they respect or usurp any authority of God. We can also judge the official conduct of our elected officials in the same harsh light. We can and must shine the spotlight of reproach on their behavior. Are we saying that each of the Declaration of Independence signers contemplated the foregoing essence of the law of nature when they wrote this document and invoked the laws of nature as the basis upon which their actions in separating with England were justified? At this point, we are simply saying they referenced the law of nature as the foundational law of the nation. The meaning of the law of nature cannot be rationally ignored. It is indisputable that Sir William Blackstone, an English contemporary of the framers, have written in volume 1, page 41 of his commentaries on the laws of England in 1765 about the laws of nature and of nature's God, and defined those terms for English law. He observed that the laws of nature were those laws God had written at the creation of the world and were now reflected in nature, God's creation. Likewise, he addressed the laws of nature's God, asserting these laws consisted of those laws God had written through his prophets and recorded in the scripture throughout history after creation was completed. The laws of nature's God. So the Declaration of Independence not only refers to the laws of nature, but it refers to the laws of nature's God. What is the difference, if any? Blackstone says that upon reflection, they are both one and the same. This is true in the sense that they have the same author, the creator. But the laws of nature's God refer to the laws of God that he laid down after creation at various times throughout human history and that are recorded in the Bible. These laws may or may not be universal, depending on the context of their declaration and an examination of what peoples or nations to whom they were given and under what conditions or qualifications, if any, that apply. To discover the laws of nature's God that are universal requires an examination of the Bible with all these particulars in mind. What is to be avoided is the conclusion that simply because God laid down some rule at some point in history after creation for Israel, that it automatically constitutes a universal rule or universal prohibition. Genesis chapter 9 verse 6 is an example of the law of nature's God that is universal. It is a rule which authorized mankind to punish murderers. It was given about 1,650 years after creation, and so it is not a law of nature, but a review of the context and wording of Genesis chapter 9 verse 6 indicates that it is of universal application and not limited to merely Noah and his sons. The specific laws, however, given by God to Moses for the people of Israel under a covenant by which God would govern Israel and by which Israel would be God's treasured possession as his people, do not by their context and wording apply to all peoples and all nations throughout all time as a matter of law. Many are conditional because they only apply to the Israel people who actually entered into or resided in the land God granted to Abraham. The Sabbath year and year of Jubilee are of this nature. God's grace in Deuteronomy 17 that civil government should be limited could be a law of nature's God. It certainly is wise counsel knowing what lies in the heart of human beings and the fact that human beings, as James Madison famously observed, are not angels. He said if men were angels, no government would be necessary. Natural law. In order that he was cooking on that one, right? James Madison. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. Stop naming y'all camps the angels, and you know what I'm saying? Oh, we God's angels. Man, if you was an angel, man, you would take out Satan's kingdom. You got a ministry, Angel of the Light Ministries. Man, you better stop, take your name down and stuff like that. Man, you ain't supposed to be calling yourself an angel. God showed people who's the angel. You're not supposed to call yourself that. Nobody in the Bible walked up to somebody and said, I'm an angel. You crazy. In order that our review can be complete, we must also discuss natural law. Biblically speaking, Romans chapter 1 verse 18 discusses natural law. It states, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Paul is stating that people know about God from the creation of the world based on what has been made by God. He is saying, you and I know about God's eternal power and divine nature. He is saying that all mankind knows this. He is not saying we know this because it is written in the scripture. He is not saying we know this because someone told us about God in a conversation. He is saying we know this because the heavens and the earth declare it. The heavens and the earth God made. We can use our reason and see that God made the heavens and the earth, and we can deduce the existence of a great creator with power and divinity. According to Saint Thomas Aquinas, the natural law is nothing else than the rational creature's participation of the eternal law. Summa Theologica 1/1191.2. The eternal law is God's wisdom because it is the directive norm of all movement and action. The Greeks and Stoics also articulated their understanding of natural law. Aristotle is considered by many to be the father of natural law. In rhetoric, he argues that aside from particular laws that each people have set up for themselves, there's a common law or higher law that is according to nature. Rhetoric 137.3 B28. Natural law is discovered by humans through reason and choosing between good and evil. Therefore, natural law seeks to discover certain universal standards in morality and ethics. The Stoics which followed, adopted a similar method of discovery, but saw no need for higher law. With each of these, what each of these have in common is there's a belief that certain laws transcend time, culture, and civil institutions. The concept of natural law indicates there are universal standards that apply to all mankind throughout all time. These universal moral standards are inherent in and discoverable use of reason, and may be established to form a just society and a lawful civil government. The law of nature and of nature's God, however, differs from natural law in the sense that under the former, God himself is the creator and thereby holds the prominent place of the lawgiver rather than an indistinct concept of nature or use of reason alone. But more importantly, since God is a personal God, he continues to exercise his authority, which he has not given to any other to perform. By this rule, people in the civil governments they establish lack jurisdiction to impair his laws. He remains the king and will judge nations in the here and now and in the age to come. All we have said has nothing to do with establishing a national or state church or legislating doctrinal propositions. It is simply the default and legal paradigm that universally applies to all nations on the earth. It is also the actual legal foundation articulated by the Declaration of Independence, and our governments have no choice but to follow it. So next chapter, does the Declaration express the law of nature of equality? So God created his own image of God. He created him, male and female. He created them. Genesis 1:27. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Declaration of Independence, 1776. Created equal. Hit that like button, share this video out, and hype me up. Let's move on from there. Created equal. Having surveyed the laws of nature and of nature's God and natural law, we see that the framers referenced this law as the basis for what they were then about to assert. They declared this law justifies separation from an existing civil government. They declared certain universal principles that reveal whether a civil government was lawful or lawless. The Declaration of Independence reflects only a finite articulation of that law. The Declaration outlines and explains only a few of the most important principles embodied in the law of God. The Declaration was not meant to define and enumerate every legal idea God has ever expressed. The Declaration simply provides us with the essential legal principles. The Declaration articulated several derivative principles of the laws of nature and of nature's God. First, that people are created by God, and that by this circumstance, therefore, are to be treated equally before the law. Second, all people are endowed by God with certain unalienable rights. Third, that people are also endowed with the right to civilly govern themselves according to their written consent. This means that they can extend their government's power, but only lawful or just power. Fourth, the people retain the right to alter or abolish an unlawful form of government as exercising self-government. Fifth, the people may organize the civil government's powers in such a way as to secure their happiness. Let us examine each of these in turn, starting with equality. The first principle articulated in the Declaration of Independence, grounded in law, declares that all men are created equal. The Bible indicates that men and women are created in God's image, that they are equally human before God. Genesis 1, verse 26 and 27 notes that God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. The rule of equality is tied to the creation of mankind in God's image. The term men is a reference to the authority of human beings, male and female, not a gender reference to males. The law of nature, because a lot of things when God say men or sons, it applies to women as well in the Bible. The law of nature is the law which God declared at the creation of mankind. That is a simple proposition. God created mankind and said they were male and female, and both were in his image. This is the law regarding human beings, that male and female are equally human. All human beings, regardless of race, color, or nationality, are equally human. The framers said this law of equality laid down at creation by God pertains to how we may eventually set up a civil government, though it is the case that slavery rather than the civil equality of the sexes was their immediate concern. Equality in the original Constitution. The principle of equality was reflected in the National Constitution. For instance, Article 1, Section 9, clauses 4, 5, and 6 reflect the principle of equality with respect to taxation. These clauses stress proportionality and permit no preferences in regulating commerce. Article IV, Section 2, Clause 1 asserts the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. The equal application of the law to all citizens can only be rightly understood and practiced in light of the principle of equality. The prohibitions against titles of nobility found in Article 1, Section 9 and Article 1, Section 10 also stem from the equality principle. These constitutional provisions were instrumental in eradicating both emoluments and hereditary succession of power. Another great advantage in the Constitution before us is its excluding all titles of nobility, which hath been a main engine of tyranny in foreign countries. But the American Revolution was built upon the principle that all men are born with an equal right to liberty and property. Isaac Backus quoted in Jonathan Elliott, ed. The debates in the several state conventions on the adoption of the federal constitution, New York, Burt Franklin, 1888. The principle of equality is importantly articulated in Article 1, Section 2, which provides for popular election of representatives to the House of Representatives. The 14th Amendment subsequently expanded that provision to require that representatives be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers. This change, accompanied by the 15th voting without regard to race, 17th direct election of senators, 19th voting without regard to sex, 24th no poll tax, and 26 18-year-old vote amendments provides all adult citizens, excepting those in the District of Columbia, with the equal opportunity to participate in selecting representatives and senators. With respect to equality between the states represented in the Senate, Article V asserts that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Slavery and involuntary servitude. Many founders recognized that slavery as practiced in the United States at the time of independence was an affront to the principles acknowledged in the Declaration. During the Constitutional Convention, the delegates could not arrive at a consensus conforming the new Constitution to the principle of equality in this context. Abraham Lincoln later noted that the spirit of the founders towards slavery was hostility to the principle and toleration only by necessity. Abraham Lincoln's speech on the Kansas-Nebraska Act at Peoria, Illinois, October 16, 1854. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 contemplated a move toward conformity to the Declaration principle by permitting Congress to impose taxes upon the slave trade and to abolish the trade altogether after 1808. But it did not open the door to the abolition of slavery itself. Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration, this is why a lot of black people say when they created the Constitution, we were still slaves and stuff like that, because it's true. It's a lot of truth to that. Not all of us was free. Some of us probably was, but not all of us, because we're reading about it right now. It still was in effect. They was making laws to abolish it, trying to abolish it, right? So Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration, consistently opposed slavery. It was George Washington who was owning a lot of slaves, and he was putting their dentures in his mouth, taking slaves' teeth, putting them in his mouth. He labeled it a moral depravity and a hideous blot. He also regarded slavery as contrary to the laws of nature and of nature's God. Jefferson advocated legislation to abolish slavery, and in 1778, he drafted a bill in Virginia that prohibited the importation of enslaved African persons. Yet, his view did not carry the day. The strength of slavery was still on the increase. The Declaration articulated the true principle of equality according to the law of nature, but the Constitution was only able to plant the seeds of equality in its generation. The Constitution did so at least in three ways, as noted by scholar Thomas G. West in Vindicating the Framers, page 16 to 17, 1997. The Constitution counted 3/5 of slaves toward representation in Congress and toward the Electoral College. The Southern states advocated that slaves count on a one-to-one basis, thereby increasing the number of possible representatives those states would send to the House of Representatives. The Northern states, however, opposed this, and the 3/5 counting compromise was struck. Another constitutional step toward fulfillment of the equality principle was in empowering Congress to ban the migration and importation of slaves after 25 years or after 1808. So, the trade in human beings was guaranteed at each state's discretion for 25 years, but became subject to congressional authority thereafter. The slave trade was abolished in 1808 by Congress on the strength of this clause. Yet, the institution itself remained. You hear that? The institution itself remained. So they were still selling us into slavery, feeding us to alligators. Is this too deep for y'all? I know you don't really hear stuff like this on YouTube too much like that because they water down all the content. All the monetized channels, they can't give y'all too much truth because they're going to lose their subscribers. They might lose their channel, so they don't want to speak this truth. But let's keep it going. All praises to the Most High. So, finally, the Constitution provided that runaway slaves would be returned to their owners. The constitutional language employed, however, did not refer to slaves, but rather to persons. Article IV, Section 2, Clause 3 stated that no person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall in consequence of any law or regulation therein, see, you wasn't a person when they wrote this, you was still 3/5, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. This clause at least refers to persons held to labor rather than constitutionalizing the concept of slaves held to servitude. While the Constitution gave protection to slavery, within it were the seeds of change, but those seeds could not and still cannot be realized if the concept of equality as a principle derived from the laws of nature as God laid down from his creation of human beings in his image from the beginning is continually rejected or denied. We may take issue with the Constitution's framers for not adequately applying the principle of equality. We may criticize them, but those today who would reject the foundation of equality itself, mankind made by God equally in his image as a universal legal proposition, are guilty of the greater sin. We may rightly judge them more severely than the framers are judged. The framers fell short of applying the principle, but modern critics reject the very foundation itself. The principle of equality they restated from the law of nature as established by God the Creator, while universally true, is like many things in life for future generation to flesh out and practice each in their own generation. Jesus, Yeshua, reminds us about which is lesser and what is greater. He says, woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple is bound by nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the temple is bound by the oath. Blind fools,
Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? And whoever swears by the altar is bound by nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift on it, he is bound by the oath. You are blind. For which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Matthew 23, verse 16 to 23. Which is greater, the law of nature and principle of equality, or a consistent application of that principle in the same generation? This is a question to be posed to the naysayers. In the period preceding the Civil War, led by orators such as Stephen Douglas and jurists such as Chief Justice Roger Taney, some separated the interpretation and implementation of the Constitution regarding slavery from the equality principles of the Declaration of Independence. By making this separation, these men attempted to transform a tolerated evil soon to expire into a positive right. This is the essence of the Supreme Court's holding in the Supreme Court's decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford, 60 U.S. 19 How 393, 1857. Chief Justice Taney's majority opinion relied on an historical analysis to support the court's decision that Scott was not an American citizen, and these historical practices, rather than the standard of equality, should control the outcome. While it is always proper to consider the factual situation existing at the founding, it is the immutable rule of the law of nature, and it's the principle of equality which controls, not the inconsistent practices of men. Amendments to implement the principle of equality. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, however, changed this practice. The 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery, finds its justification. Oh, hold on. Let me get back on this. Hold on. All right. The 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery, finds its justification in the Declaration's principle that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The 14th Amendment, Section 1, further reflects the principles of equality and unalienable rights by acknowledging that men created equal may enjoy the equal protection of the law and share equally in the privileges and duties of citizenship. In addition, state governments were barred as a matter of constitutional law from denying procedural due process of law to their citizens. The Supreme Court's transformation of that clause into a substantive one, opening the door to judicially created rights, is a perversion of the law of nature and the Constitution itself. The 15th Amendment, which extended the vote to non-whites and former slaves, drew its justification from the principles of government by consent. This amendment assured that African Americans could also share in making the laws by which all would be equally judged. Chapter 18. So we're going to talk about the Declaration expressed. We're going to talk about whether or not the Declaration expressed the law of nature of unalienable rights. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Declaration of Independence, 1776. Unalienable rights. We have examined equality. Let us now turn to unalienable rights. The Declaration of Independence states that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The concept of a Creator endowing human beings is not Enlightenment thinking, nor do atheists talk about a Creator. It has biblical origins from the beginning. Genesis describes the creation of human beings and how God gave both men and women on equal terms the same responsibilities and duties. Here is every seed-bearing plant for food. Here is the land. Work it and till it to feed and sustain you. So when God say work, he was always talking about working the land that he gave us to occupy and, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. That's what he was talking about. Every nation had their own land, every language. He did not, it was no nations at first. He scattered the people at the Tower of Babel and divided their language. The language became different geographical locations, and then they became nations later on. So here's every seed bearing plant for food. Here's the land. Work it and till it. So when God say work, he was always talking about working on the land that he gave us to own. Work it and till it to feed and sustain you. Bear children and sustain and enlarge your family. After the flood, God said, here are the animals and birds and fish for food and clothing and to domesticate. We have covered these grants of authority in prior chapters. The declaration recognizes this existing order. It recognizes the way of things according to the Creator and the importance of mankind, male and female. Not no lesbians, not no LGBT, not no homosexual, not no Don Lemon going viral on YouTube, which is abomination to the Lord. That's why Don Lemon getting all these views on the Nolan Wells topic, because he had clout chasing homosexual sausage eating devil. So, but the declaration goes further and states a legal proposition from this order of things. It says mankind has certain rights. It says these rights are unalienable. It says these rights come from the endowment or grant of the Creator. What does all this mean? How do we get from here, from land and seed and food and children, to unalienable rights? God created human beings and he gave them specific authority and responsibility. God created and described marriage and the family. Polygamy was wrong. Ain't no ISUBK having no wife in every state. That's why Captain Tazariak keep ducking me, y'all, because he know polygamy is wrong and he's going to hell if he don't repent. Monogamy was right. He articulated the authority of a man and a woman. He described the authority of a husband and wife. He described the duties of parents in connection with their children. He describes the fact that children are born in a family to their parents. God also went to a great deal of trouble to describe what mankind should be doing. God said to Adam and Eve, they should have children. God said that they should have many children. God said that they should fill the earth. God said that their children should fill the earth and subdue the earth. He entrusted parents with the education and upbringing of their own children so that Adam and Eve and their children could subdue the earth. He gave to them seed-bearing plants. He gave them fruit trees for food. He gave them the animals of the earth, though only after the flood for food to eat. He gave them every bird in the air and all the creatures of the earth. He gave them every green plant for food. After the flood, he extended the authority to mankind to take the life of a murderer and subsequently identify certain protections and principles of due process associated with that deprivation or deprivation. There was no civil government in existence to interfere with, regulate, compel, or usurp these individual and familial tasks, duties, and responsibilities. We also learn that the civil government's lawful purpose, if established by the consent of the people, is to protect and secure the free exercise of each of the foregoing duties and obligations. It is not for the civil government to compel or regulate them, but rather to restrain and enjoin others, including itself, from impairing or interfering with such duties and obligations. These are examples of the duties which individuals and family members owe to God. They owe it to God because God set the task before them by his word and will. The record is not unclear on this point. This brings us to the link with unalienable rights. A duty to God is an unalienable right to be free from interference by others. What is the bridge between the duties owed to God that he laid down at the creation of the world and the idea of unalienable rights? It is straightforward and logical. It begins with the understanding of responsibilities. It progresses from responsibilities to a duty to God. It then moves from the duty we owe to God as a right against human wrongdoers with their interference, with their, hold on, let me get this back. This important. I'm gonna get this from the beginning. What is the bridge between the duties owed to God that he laid down at the creation of the world and the idea of unalienable rights? It is straightforward and logical. It begins with an understanding of responsibilities. It progresses from responsibilities to a duty to God. It then moves from the duty we owe to God as a right against human wrongdoers with their interference with those duties. The responsibilities God entrusts to every man and woman by his creation of them and of husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, marriage and family are also duties we each owe back to God. For instance, God said that mankind should exercise authority over the land. This responsibility in turn is a duty men and women individually owe to God. When a man or woman exercises that duty, they should not be interfered with by other persons or civil government. So we say that human beings have a right from God to perform that duty. It is an unalienable right because it cannot be impaired by any person and not by the civil ruler who enjoys no authority or immunity to act as a wrongdoer itself. When we refer to unalienable rights, we mean that human beings, by their being created in the image of God and by virtue of them being asked by God to perform certain universal responsibilities, have an unalienable right to be free from the interference, regulation, or control of other persons, including local, state, and federal civil governments, and exercising those pre-existing responsibilities and duties to God, who requested them in the first place. Those who interfere with exercising those duties are the wrongdoers, identified in Romans 13. Civil government, as instituted by specific people living within a predefined geographical boundary, is entrusted to secure the free exercise of such duties. It is wholly unsatisfactory to talk about such duties without also acknowledging their correlative rights. There's no duty that does not necessarily or logically imply a corresponding right. So a God-given responsibility entrusted to human beings and other responsibilities entrusted to married persons and to families by God are duties which pre-exist even the existence of civil government in time and in history from creation. As such, a human being has a right as against all others to exercise that duty free from interference, regulation, and control. That duty is unalienable in the sense of being absolute, so that the individual on whom God imposes it cannot free himself from it. In such instances, that duty's corresponding right must also be likewise unalienable. As such, the person to whom it attaches cannot be lawfully deprived of its existence by any other person or official, and clearly not by any civil government. Let's talk about rights versus rights. The legal definitions of unalienable and rights are worth reviewing. By definition, unalienable means incapable of transfer. In other words, an unalienable right cannot be given away. More importantly, however, that which is unalienable cannot be taken away, especially by the civil government. That which is unalienable cannot be taken away, especially by the civil government. Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary defines unalienable as that which cannot be legally or justly alienated or transferred to another. The concept of inalienability, assuming due process, however, does not preclude civil government from alienating human life and punishment for murder, from alienating a man's liberty through imprisonment upon conviction of crimes, or alienating a man's property through levy and execution for payment of legal judgments. The concept of unalienable rights does, however, preclude civil government from balancing rights against governmental interests, whether such interests are compelling, rational, or just made up by some bureaucrat. The idea of rights as unalienable, indefeasible, indubitable, or inherent was part and parcel of the framers' worldview. Though these different words may not have precisely the same meaning, they carry the same essence, that people have certain rights from their creator, which civil government may not deny or disparage. The Virginia 1776 Constitution declared that all men are by nature free and independent and have certain inherent rights. Pennsylvania's 1776 Constitution stated that all men are born equally free and independent and have certain natural, inherent, and inalienable rights. Delaware and North Carolina's 1776 Declaration of Rights proclaimed that all men have a natural and unalienable right to worship Almighty God. Delaware and North Carolina come right out and say it. We have an inalienable and a natural right to worship Almighty God. The idea of inalienability is easier to grasp than the idea of rights. This condition is owing to the deterioration of the definition of rights. The definition of rights has been alloyed through impure construction. Inalienability, on the other hand, has simply been ignored and thus has not suffered definitional corrosion of its meaning. To the modern jurist, a right is considered as such simply because it is asserted as a right. For instance, Black's Law Dictionary declares that a right is a power, privilege, faculty, or demand inherent in one person and incident upon another. Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, 1979. We note that the primal right pertaining to men are enjoyed by human beings purely as such, being grounded in personality and existing and antecedently to their recognition by positive law. The source of rights identified here is the primal aspect of man qua man. This approach reflects a humanistic jurisprudence and is an absolute non sequitur from the laws of nature and of nature's God. The humanistic approach is the antithesis of the Declaration's observation that people are endowed with unalienable rights by their Creator. Compare the humanist view with Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary definition. Webster did not declare that rights are primal or grounded in personality. He declared that a right is conformity to the will of God or to his law, that perfect standard of truth and justice. In the literal sense, right is a straight line of conduct and wrong a crooked one. Right, therefore, is rectitude or straightness, and perfect rectitude is found only in an infinite being and his will. Webster defines a right as conformity to the law of God, to rectitude. Humanist jurisprudence founded upon evolution and mere positivism, however, discards the need for rectitude. It envisions a system of justice animated by jurisprudence in which rights may be wrongs. See Roe v. Wade. The right to privacy under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment extended to a woman's decision to have an abortion. Lawrence v. Texas. Intimate consensual sexual conduct was part of the liberty protected by substantive due process under the 14th Amendment. Obergefell v. Hodges. The fundamental right to marry is guaranteed to same-sex couples by both the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So if I expose Don Lemon, they would try to sue me with a hate crime saying I'm going after the 14th Amendment. Nigga, you ain't got no rights under the Constitution. Let me interpret it for you. They said all men are created equal in the Declaration of Independence. They didn't say you, Don Lemon, go out, go marry a man and y'all created equal. Nigga, you going to hell. And stop telling us to stop saying nigga and sagging our pants and all that. We ain't in prison. Nigga, we don't care about none of that. So this vision of justice, however, is also contrary to the established rule that jus ex injuria non orator. You can't tell nobody that's being shadow banned don't say nigga and sag their pants. I see everybody going viral sagging their pants and saying nigga. Maybe I need to say it a little more. This vision of justice, however, is also contrary to the established rule that jus ex injuria non orator. A right does or can not rise out of a wrong. See, all right, Mississippi versus Jackson, Women's Health filed December 27. See Lonang amicus brief in Mississippi versus Jackson, Women's Health filed July 27th, 2021. George Mason drafted the Virginia Declaration of Rights in 1776, which declared that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights of which, when they enter into a society, they cannot by any compact deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. The Virginia Declaration also affirmed that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, that magistrates are their trustees and servants and at all times amenable to them. In other words, God does not make civil governments, only the people do. So unalienable rights animate both the text and the amendments to the national constitution. When James Madison introduced the proposed amendments on June 8, 1789, he moved to assert them between the third and fourth paragraphs of Article 1, Section 9. That article and section placed express limitations on the power of Congress. Examples of enumerated unalienable rights are found in the text of Article 1, Sections 9 and 10, and include prohibitions against bills of attainder and ex post facto laws. Such prohibitions secure the right to procedural due process and freedom from legislator existing non-legislative power exercising. Likewise, the prohibition of laws impairing contractual obligations secures the right to contract. In order to ensure the unalienable right of government by the consent of the people, the United States is barred from granting titles of nobility in Clause 8. Certain office holders are also strictly regulated in receiving such titles of their advantages from any foreign power by that same clause. You see Mayor Eric Adams taking all these bribes. He had laws on. He was standing next to all these Mexican cartel leaders, taking pictures, talking about, yeah, New York is the new Mexum. He had these African Zimbabwean dudes standing next to him, talking about, yeah, New York is the new Istanbul. He getting all these contracts and all these deals under the table with these foreign nations, and he was bringing in all the cartels, all them immigrants that was in their countries, and he took all that money and moved into Albania. Now he got citizenship in Albania. And Mayor Eric Adams was running around talking about, I'm the hip hop mayor and all this stuff. Then moved out the country. So remember, Trump and them was on his ass. They was gonna lock him up. Then they let him go. They said he was like, oh, I'm gonna work with him. Then he said that he was going back and forth. That nigga moved out the country, man. So in order to ensure that the unalienable right of government by the consent of the people, the United States is barred from granting titles of nobility. The Treasury appropriation can only be made pursuant to the consent of the people's representatives by law, according to Clause 7. All right, let me see how much more we got, because, yeah, my battery is starting to die. And, oh, it's not that much more. All right, we can get the rest of this. Congressional control of migration subsequent to 1808, found in 1 Clause 1, secures the right of the people to self-defense, property, and security of their borders. Security of their borders. That means, nigga, y'all should have never brought in all these immigrants and made them feel like they got to fight against black people for resources. And then y'all made them come in here and they didn't even bring their families. They was coming here. I love all people. I just want to let y'all know. Shout out to all the Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and Dominicans, and everybody from other countries. I love everybody, right? But I want to let y'all know, they should have never told y'all to come over here like that. And then you never knew this law was in existence since 1808. It ain't got nothing to do with Trump or Barack or Joe Biden or none of that. This law been in existence since 1808. Let's read it real quick. Let's read it. Congressional control of migration subsequent to 1808, found in Article 1, Clause 1, secures the right of the people to self-defense, property, and security of their borders. See, that's why they could have hired a bum off the street and said, if you want to work for us to go down and secure our borders, we'll give you a $30,000 sign-on bonus, and we'll take off all your school credit in 6 years, as long as you keep serving in the military. They were signing up people that smoke weed, all type of stuff. Elon Musk got on the stage and did a Nazi salute right on the stage. They recruited all the Ku Klux Klan, all them neo-Nazi groups and all that. Proud Boys, all of them. After Trump exonerated them dudes, they said, y'all could come join the military. We give y'all any type of job. You could come over here and work in the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth. I guarantee y'all, them niggas who rushed the Capitol, I guarantee y'all, them dudes, the niggas who rushed the Capitol, Trump peoples, the Proud Boys, guarantee y'all some of them is working in the Pentagon right now with Pete Hegseth. I guarantee y'all. You just don't know it. So, congressional control of my, all right, so the import of that clause was also designed to eventually secure equality, the unalienable right of life and due process against the contravailing interests of the slave trade. Habeas corpus provision of clause 2 is also tied to these rights and due process requirements. And lastly, the rights incidental to equality are reflected in clauses 4, 5, and 6 as they relate to proportionality of direct taxes, equal advantages of tax-free exports, and the prohibition of preferences among ports from one state over those of another. Many of these rights and principles are also reflected in Article 1, Section 10. Rights and amendments. An example of an enumerated unalienable right found in the First Amendment prohibits Congress, inter alia, from making any law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. This provision has its roots in Thomas Jefferson's Virginia Bill for establishing religious freedom, as well as the Declaration's unalienable right of liberty. C. An Act for Religious Freedom adopted by the Virginia Assembly on January 16, 1786, recited in Code of Virginia, Section 57.1, 1950. One of the controlling premises of this statute, like that of the First Amendment, is that Almighty God hath created the mind free. Jefferson asserted that freedom of the mind was of the natural rights of mankind, and therefore beyond the scope of civil jurisdiction. Other freedoms, such as speech, press, assembly, and petition, are also found in the First Amendment. These freedoms are also based in part on the fact that Almighty God created the mind free. In addition, the Second Amendment prohibits Congress from infringing upon the right to keep and bear arms, which is immediately derived from the unalienable right to self-defense, life, and that of individual and family self-government. The Third and Fourth Amendments protect the sanctity of the home and property from government invasion and taking. The Fifth and 14th Amendments assure that neither the Congress nor the states have power to deprive a person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Not all constitutional provisions, however, deal with unalienable rights, such as the $20 prerequisite to jury trials in the Seventh Amendment. There are others in the amendments, but these are key. Coming back, we're going to go into, does the Declaration express the law of nature of consent? Got like 30 more pages on this. But that's good, the good spot to end it off right there. Yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed that, man. I spent extra time on here than I was gonna spend. Y'all spend more time than normal. Need y'all to like, share this out though. Subscribe. will be back. All right, catch y'all later, man. Appreciate y'all.